The Mapuche Indians of Chile by Julia Rioux. The Mapuche are natives to South America, particularly to the fertile valleys of Chile now called Central Valley. They may have lived here as far back as 600 BCE.
It is right in between the Andes Mountains, the Atacama Desert, and Chile's 2,700-mile-long coastline. For Chile itself, it is a country in South America bordered by Argentina, Bolivia, and Peru.
The Mapuche used to be a native group that made their living through farming maize, beans, squash, and raising llamas for wool and pack animals. They lived in close-knit tribes of their extended families under a chief called a Huanca. They are also known for waging a war against Spain and Chile lasting 350 years. This war was not always intensely violent, but was a representation of their struggle for independence. They are the only native group in South America who have always maintained their independence. Their culture is a mix between traditional themes and ideas that were introduced after Spanish colonization. For example, silverworking was introduced by the Spanish, making it an element of pop culture. However, many pieces are made by hand and are used in traditional ceremonies and weddings. The Mapuche art is a mix of folk and pop. Many folk tales arose from Mapuche culture, including one about the Puchin, a monster which can take the form of any animal, petrifies its victims, and sucks their blood. The traditional language of the Mapuche is Mapudungun, meaning earth speak. It was not a written language until Spanish settlers applied Latin letters to it. Today, not many people speak Mapudungun, and if they do, they also speak another language. The Mapuche believe in syncretism, or the attempted unity of two contradictory parts of religion. This is another example of Spanish influence. The religion was shaped by Catholicism as well as traditional ideas. The Machi is a priestess-like woman whose job is to heal and provide spiritual guidance. They are polytheistic, but the most prominent is Antu, who is associated with the sun.
Another prominent figure is the Master of Man, who they believe created the universe.
They carve wooden statues called chimamule to mark the graves of the deceased. In their belief, it creates a permanent link between the dead person and the living world, that they may remain in contact with them after they die. The term Mapuche originated from one tribe, but today it covers a wide range of ethnicities. Those who identify as Mapuche make up about 10% of Chile's population. Many still hold on to traditions, and some even hold jobs in agriculture. The Mapuche are still ordinary people, and some have moved into cities for economic opportunities. Today they are facing hardships, including being political prisoners and having a disproportionately high poverty rate.
One example of their traditions still being practiced today are their festivals. This one is celebrating the summer solstice and involves dancing, singing, feasts, and traditional ceremonies.
The Mapuche are a people with rich culture and beautiful traditions. Come visit them in the fertile valleys of Chile. Piyukeo Chaltume. Thank you and goodbye.
Mauritania is a country in northwestern Africa and is rarely heard about, even though it is one of the most fascinating countries. Mauritania has two ethnic groups, resulting in two separate cultures, but many of the cultural traditions and beliefs are shared between the two. These groups are the Arab Berbers and the Black Africans. The following video will be informing you about both ethnic groups. Mauritania's physical geography consists mostly of arid desert due to the overlapping Sahara, which makes up most of the country. The climate is dry and hot, making sandstorms a regular occurrence. There is some arable land in the south, farther away from the Sahara. Many Black Africans use the land for farming, while others prefer a more nomadic type of living. The Arab Berbers are concentrated in the north and tend to settle in one place permanently. Mauritania's culture is colorful, to say the least. The two ethnic groups share many similar cultural traits as mentioned before. Their culture requires multiple food customs, specific idea-based education, and strict social stratification. Some food customs that are followed are people only eat with their right hands and the main meal is served at different times. Arab Berbers eat in the evening and Black Africans in the afternoon. Their diet consists of meat, millet, rice, fish, and sweet potatoes. It's also not appropriate to eat in the presence of one's in-laws, and the food is typically served by slaves, younger members of a family, or women. Mauritania has a social hierarchy that is both rigid and strict. There's apparent ethnic boundaries, and in both the Arab Berbers and Black Africans, there's a very clear division of wealth. Slaves are at the low end of the scale, while religious leaders and warriors dwell at the top. Dress and speech shows your wealth and status, and putting on your best clothes is a symbol of wealth, specifically in the Black African culture. Women are also often force-fed in order to gain weight and be large. Being obese is very desirable in Mauritania, and stretch marks and body fat is a symbol of wealth, since the husband obviously provides enough food for the family. Being divorced is also an admirable trait. The education in Mauritania is based on a mix of three overlapping philosophies: Islam, Western philosophy, and indigenous beliefs. Typically, only the wealthy are well educated, while the lower class has simpler core beliefs such as being generous, respectful, giving service, and endurance. Mauritania's main language is Arabic based on the country's religion, but French is still spoken as a result of French colonization. There are four national languages besides Arabic: Hassania, Wolof, Bambara, and Fulani. The LDI of Mauritania is 0.183. These languages are spoken all throughout the country. Islam is the main religion of Mauritania, and nearly the entire country practices it. Some also practice local African religions indigenous to the land. There are two main brotherhoods of religion, Biania and Qadria, and both have a spiritual medium or leader that has special powers and leads rituals based on Islamic prayer. In 1987, there were 6 ethnic groups in Mauritania, 2 very large ones and 4 smaller ones. The Arab Berbers were the primary group, and the other group was of Black African descent. As time went on, the smaller groups faded away into much smaller, tribal, indigenous groups. Now there are only the Arab Berbers located in the north and the Black Africans scattered throughout the country. Today, Mauritania is as undeveloped as its people, but it's rich in natural resources such as iron. Illegal slavery is a major conflict in this country, and many anti-slavery activists and the government are working towards finally ending the issue. It's a country that just needs to be invested in. Now you know more about Mauritania, a country with entrancing cultures and not just some random country on a map.
The Central African Republic is located in Central Africa. The landscape is mostly flat, however it has a tropical climate. The Central African Republic has a rich culture steeped in long-standing tradition. The Central African Republic is a family-oriented culture with many traditions stemming from the importance of family. Many traditional gender roles are followed in the house, with men as the breadwinners and women cleaning, cooking, and taking care of children. Although recently strides have been made in gender equality, women are now more often in positions of leadership. In the Central African Republic, food also plays a large role in the culture. Most citizens grow their own food staples such as corn, squash, and soy. The basic food staple is a mixture of cassava and sorghum, which is a type of grass. While eating, men and women may not eat together, and food is eaten with the hands. The Central African Republic has one of the highest linguistic diversity indexes in the world. The official language is French. Sango, which is a creole of French and African languages, is the lingua franca and national language. Sango is primarily spoken, and French is used for written communication. While French and Sango are the main languages, various tribal languages are also spoken. The Central African Republic has experienced a stray from indigenous religions to universalizing religions such as Christianity and Islam. 35% of the population practice indigenous beliefs, 50% practice some form of Christianity, and 15% practice Islam. Traditional religion has decreased since 1950 with the spread of missionaries. The differing religions have lived in relative peace until 2013, where anti-Balaka which is a group of mostly Christians, killed Muslim civilians and pillaged villages in an attempt to rid the country of Muslims. Many were killed or displaced because of this conflict. Most people living in the Central African Republic have Black African or Arab descent. There are many ethnic groups located in the Central African Republic. The biggest ones include the Baya, Banda, and Mandinka. Even though there are many ethnic groups, many people choose to identify themselves with clans rather than large ethnic groups. Some ethnic groups hold on to traditions such as hunting and gathering, while others are involved in politics. Interactions between ethnic groups can be peaceful, such as intermarriage and trade, while some interactions between ethnic groups are violent. The Central African Republic is full of colorful culture that would be the perfect fit for your vacation. Visit this lovely country in Central Africa right now.
As these cultures are all in different parts of the world, they are shaped by different physical features. For the Mapuche Indians, they made a living in agriculture because the land they lived in was very fertile and many rivers run throughout which can be used for irrigation. In Mauritanian culture, however, much of the area is desert. This forces the people to be nomadic to make a living off of agriculture. Amazingly, the Mapuche of Chile and the people of Central African Republic grow much of the same crops, such as corn and soy, even though they are in very different cultures and climates and 6,630 miles apart. The religious background of these cultures are similar in the fact that they were all originally polytheistic and ethnic religions. When they were colonized, a new religion was introduced. In Central African Republic and Chile, this religion was Christianity, and for Mauritania it was Islam. These new religions are monotheistic and universal religions. All three cultures have found ways to include both religions. In Chile and Mauritania, the religions were sometimes combined and relationships between them are peaceful. However, with Central African Republic, the evangelical religions were met with conflict.
All of these three cultures share similar traits and beliefs in regards to folk and popular culture, but at the same time, they are all culturally diverse, varying among one another. For example, these cultures have very specific and similar gender roles. The men typically are the providers and the protectors, while the women take care of the children and household. But an advancement towards equality has happened in all three of these countries. Some even have reached leadership positions, which is another example of a similarity. All of these cultures are patrilineal, which means they look at their family tree through the husband or father's line. However, there are obviously some differences. Their diets vary based on the resources available in the different countries. Mauritania is mostly desert, so there's little greenery and limited resources as opposed to the Mapuche, who have the fertile land valleys of Chile. The Mapuche's diet changed after colonization, unlike the Central African Republic and Mauritania. These cultures are all different in multiple ways, but there is some common ground to be found.
The linguistic influences of a culture are a good representation of the cultural landscape seen in that area. The legacy of colonization is seen in Mauritania as well as the Central African Republic. The Central African Republic and Mauritania were both colonized by the French, therefore French is a major language. Additionally, the Mapuche tribe, Mauritania, and the Central African Republic have multiple languages that the people speak. However, the country of Mauritania's linguistics have been shaped by the main religion, Islam, hence why Arabic is the most common language. These cultures are united in the fact that there are multiple ethnic groups representing their cultures. There are many tribes scattered all throughout the Central African Republic, Mauritania, and the Mapuche territory. Smaller ethnic groups have died out over the years and have been replaced by the larger tribes. These larger ethnic groups all have traditions deep-seated in their cultures.